Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Raising Vibration Radio and Journey in Consciousness. I am one of the hosts, Reverend Raven. Our other host is detained this evening, and our special guest that we were supposed to have on is rescheduled for the 20th of November. Last week, we had to cancel the show altogether. Mercury in retrograde has really played a huge part this weekend, over the past couple of months, actually. Or I mean this month. But the all of the Mercury retrogrades this year have been quite fun for myself, being that it was in an air sign and I am an air sign. So it was kind of very interesting. Um, so tonight I would like to talk about that and everything because the show must go on, whether it's me or Tammy, with a guest or not without a guest or anything like that. We want to keep this podcast going. And we look forward to upcoming guests that are going to be on the show. In fact, I'll be glad to share with you some of the guests that we are going to be having on here in the very next near future. Like, for instance, next week, our guest is going to be Albert Moore. We were able to have him last week because of me and my situation. And I'll go into details about that a little bit later on during the podcast. And then we also will be having our let's see. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Albert Moore is going to be on the 23rd. And then we're going to do a special Halloween show on the 30th. And then we're going to have John Ferris as a guest on the show on the 6th of November. And then we have a Dr. Jamie McLaughlin is going to be here. And then on the 20th, Isabel, the guest that we were supposed to have tonight, that was just an unforeseen future, just couldn't make it. So here we are together. And it's kind of funny that it's even happening this way tonight with me just doing the podcast. And I wish Tammy could be here too as well. I miss her and hardly ever get to talk to her anymore. You would think that two fabulous women that do a show together would get to communicate more than what we do, but unfortunately we don't. Life has really has thrown us into all kinds of vibrational directions right now, but we do love each other very, very much. And I'm so thankful she's a part of my life. And I just want to thank all of you that listen to this podcast weekly, how thankful that we are that you listen to the show. I know a lot of our listeners listen after the fact on Spreaker and iTunes and Anchor FM. And we, just thank you guys so much for helping the show grow. And we're also thankful for our guests that come on the show that bring us new insight to help us learn and to grow and to be part of a collective consciousness, so to speak. And speaking of that, I'd like to tell you about the day I had yesterday. So I had the opportunity, well, I don't know if all of you know this or not, but I recently became the chair of the St. Pete Time Bank here in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. Tammy lives in Richmond, Virginia. And I myself live down here in St. Petersburg. And St. Petersburg is becoming like a mecca of all kinds of things. We're just growing and trying to change things. If you can imagine the Tower tarot deck card, the Tower, I think it's a major arcana. And if you were to just shake it down and everything like that, uh, you would see, um, it brings you down to the core. And with the core, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, is breaking the tower down to the core so that we can rebuild as a community and build it back up as into something better and stronger. And I had the fortune of meeting this nice, beautiful woman who took her time to share with me some of the things that are going on in this community Friday. And I was so, well, was it Friday we met? Yes. And I'm so thankful. Like, my mind's blown. And I'm going to get into the whole story about what's been going on lately. But I met this lady and she told me how different groups of people are coming together in St. Petersburg to build a stronger and better community. And I'm so thankful that that is going to take place. I'm just, you just can't imagine the joy to hear that. And she said to take notes and witness the change. And that hit home with me yesterday, hearing that. And I'm like, yes, we should take notice and watch what's going on and not judge it. Like, you know just like tonight, Tammy's not here, our guest is not here. Don't judge it. It is what it is. And I felt like the show needed to go on because we missed last week uh due to unforeseen incidents. I had to go out of town, emergency, like, and I was supposed to be back in time to do the show. Unfortunately, I had a car accident on the interstate and nobody got hurt. I'm not hurt. My car is not doing so well. That my passenger is doing great. But it wasn't it I didn't plan for that. I didn't plan for an accident to happen, right? It's kind of funny. I'm coming home from going to Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm only like an hour and a half away from my house on the interstate when, unbeknownst to me, this tractor trailer tire flies off of a tractor trailer and smacks into the front of my car. Luckily, down at the bottom of the vehicle, not causing any of the airbags to go off and explode in my face because I'm so short. I sit right up on the wheel, and that wouldn't have been pleasant. But it did take out the computer system that controls my vehicle. And it was very interesting to see that take place. And I just wanted to share with that with you because that's why I wasn't here last Saturday night and wasn't able to get the show, and we had to cancel because that was another little thing with Mercury and retrograde. And I didn't plan on it, but I had to roll with the punches. And it took me till midnight Sunday evening to get home, an hour and a half away to get to my house. But the beautiful thing of that journey that took place this past weekend is I met some beautiful, incredible souls that helped me get through the situation. You know, I had to ask for help, which is really hard for me to do, but I had to ask for help and I received it right away. Um, I had to ask a restaurant to let me and a dog go in and sit while I made phone calls. And usually restaurants don't let animals go in because of the fact that, health violations, like they don't want an animal in there. But this beautiful soul of a manager let me take the dog in that was traveling with me, not my own personal dog, but the dog of my traveling buddy. And we had to go in there, and it's made life interesting too, is fact, with all the energy that's going out there right now in the universe, right? So I'm sitting in this restaurant, making calls, trying to find a way home, because of, mind you, I have 3 towing packages with my vehicle. I have AAA, I have State Farm, and I have Ford, because I have a Ford. I could not get any of them to come to take my vehicle. I could not get a ride home with one, especially with AAA, when you have the premium package, to try to get, you're supposed to be able, they'll take you, with your car to the destination of your choice. And because of COVID, nobody wants you to be in their vehicle, and of course you can't ride in your own vehicle on a tow truck. One of all, it's dangerous, and two, it's so muggy and hot down here in Florida. Here it is, the middle of October, and we're still having 90-degree temperature. So with no air conditioning, no power in my car, what fun that would have been, right? So anyway, the accident happened. I had to cancel the show, and we miss having Albert, which is agreed to do the show on the 23rd of October. So it's very interesting, Mercury in retrograde, and I just want to know what you guys are feeling and thinking this Mercury retrograde for yourselves. I mean, yes, there's all kinds of signs out there. Everybody has experiences in a different way, but are you taking notes like my good friend that I met with on Friday reminded me to do? Take notes, you know, write down this experience and see, because we don't know what's happening right now in that very moment. We don't know why any of this is happening, right? Why is there a shortage of toilet paper at Sam's Club? Why can you only buy one brand of toilet paper right now? Why can you only buy one brand of paper towels? Why is everybody telling you right now you have to buy Christmas right now or you're not going to have a Christmas? So the good thing is it's not all doom and gloom, though. There's a group of entities getting out there together, bringing their energy together to collaborate something positive. Like we're back at that tower again. That tower's broke down to its very lowest core. And this is our opportunity to start building up brick by brick the tower that we want to see, not the old tower that we've been living with for so many years, for all of our lifetime. We get to build a whole new tower and create the oneness and the wholeness and the love that we've all been seeking. And this is where we're at right now. This is the vibration of change. Change is scary. You got to remember, we come from 2 emotions. We come from fear or we come from love. So when we're building that tower, do we want to come from fear or do we want to come from love? And I mean unconditional love, not conditional love, because that's just fear. Whenever you put conditional love, you're still coming from fear. We're talking about unconditional love, coming from that point of place. So tonight, if you have any comments or concerns or any questions, or if you'd like to join me in the studio, you let me know. Just message me on here and I'll send you a link and I will bring you into the studio and you can tell me your experiences that you've been having too as well. But I wanted to share that with you guys, how change and always constantly happening, but you have to take the opportunity not to judge it and roll with the punches and witness everything that's going on. Has something changed in your life? Have you taken a breath to really experience it and see what's going on? Do you stop and just breathe it in and feel it and not really try to judge it, just know it's there? I'd like to know what kind of experiences you're having with that. But I also wanted to tell you how this Mercury in retrograde has been affecting other, other signs too as well. Uh, it's the let me jump down here. So in Aries, if you are an Aries, this retrograde will put more of an emphasis on your relationship, the way you put on yourself in a relationship, and the balance you maintain to improve the bonding, whether it's a business partnership or relationship bonding. This retrograde demands patience and calmness and balance in any sort of one to one relationship. Avoid taking any opportunity to rush into something. Reassess the offer letter or the business proposal you receive. So that's Aries. Taurus, which is our beautiful Tammy, who's not with us today. This transit will put you more emphasis on your health and the obstacles you usually face in every aspect of life. Demand will be bring balance into your diet and change your perspective about the world. Relationships may test your self worth. Be mindful while dealing with your family and loved ones. Gemini, the transit will demand you to focus on self love and care. You may attract the spotlight in this retrograde, but may lose self respect if not focused on self love. The relationships you attract, the attention you receive may get affected if you don't focus on yourself first. Cancer, and I know that retrograde's going out of retrograde on the 18th, which is 2 more days, but I just wanted to share with you, if your sign comes up here, kind of what you might have been experiencing. And I want you to sit back and go, hey, yeah, that did happen or didn't. So type in the comments and let me know if that happened for you. So, Cancer, this transit will put more emphasis on your emotions. What affects emotions will come into experience with evident repetitive patterns. Focus on solitude and be mindful about your communication and emotional expression. Your suppressed emotions will be highlighted this month. Leo, the transit can make your filter your friend circle and put more emphasis on self-worth. Lots of old friends, neighbors, and coworkers could also pop up, hoping to catch up with you. Just remember, when life gets stressful, and it will, as it's apt to do during a retrograde, your time and energy are valuable. So invest it wisely. Take every precaution on loose talks from your end, and it may also hurt someone. Virgo. Love Virgos. Cecil's mom, one of the most beautiful women on the planet that I know, is a Virgo, and I strive to be like her every day. She's such a beautiful soul. The messenger planet, your ruler, moves backward through your section of income, which means you'll be feeling compelled to get into the competition, analyzing, reorganizing, and possibly revising your approach to financial growth. Maybe you're ready to reassess and update your resume so you can score a higher paying, more fulfilling opportunity, or you want to rework your long term savings or debt plan. Libra, that's what we're in right now. Yesterday was my father's birthday, who's in spirit, and the day before that was my Uncle Bill, who I miss and love dearly. And we lost many last year, so in the Libra phase. So, Libra, this phase will make you focus more on yourself and your needs. Even if you're an influencer, you'll be thinking about how you present yourself to the world, how people see you, perceive you, and what you want to showcase more or less of. Big goals could be a primary focus now. Talking through all of this with a trusted loved one can help you ultimately gain more clarity about what you want and how you'll get it. Scorpio, my Scorpio aunt. Mercury and Libra in general, always time for resting, recharging, getting in tune with intuition. But retrograde can be even more slower phase in which you can get a bit frustrated that everything you're apting to create progress, it feels stuck, feels very stuck. My poor aunt right now, she's taking care of my uncle who, thank you, universe, made it through COVID. He was on a ventilator. He was on it for about 10 days. They finally got him out of the hospital. He's still on oxygen, but he's back at home. And we're so blessed that he is. And she's right now, she's in the midst of taking care of herself and him too as well. And all you caregivers out there, all you people that were called to care for people when they're ill, thank you so much. That is a full-time job in itself, when someone you love or someone that you take care of sick, and you give your heart and soul. But remember, with retrograde, it gives you a time to remember to take time for yourself during this process, because it can be overwhelming, and you need to take some me time. Schedule it in, get you a calendar, schedule some me time in, something for yourself, because it gets overwhelming day after day after day when you're a caregiver. Ask some friends or relatives to come and help out too as well, and take some time for yourself. Sagittarius. Wow, you guys are getting it. So the messenger planet moves backwards through your network for the next 3 weeks, making it more likely that old friends, colleagues, people that you've met on a group date in 2018 or 2019 suddenly reappear. They might want to collaborate or talk and share long-term goals that could be achieved through teamwork. Although you usually all about throwing yourself up into the exciting opportunity with lots of optimism and joy, Mercury retrograde will always cause at least a bit of chaos and confusion. Be sure you're not signing yourself up for a commitment that looks and sounds better than it actually is. Don't sign any contract or get any sort of partnership in this transit. I think that goes for all of our signs. You really shouldn't be signing any contract. You shouldn't be getting into any new relationship. You shouldn't be buying a new car, a computer, anything like that right now. You should just be focusing on you and being grateful for what you have in this very moment of every minute of your life. Because in an instant, it can be gone, and you're over on the other side going, "What happened?" Right? And, you know, this planet is what you make it. You can make it your personal heaven or you can make it your personal hell. That's your choice. We all have choices. So do take the time. There's a couple more days of this retrograde. Tomorrow's Sunday, right? Take that Sunday. Most of you have it off. Take it off. Relax. Reflect. And look and see what you want to break down in that tower, rebuild back up brick by brick. That unconditional love for yourself, that forgiveness of others or yourself, whatever that you need to do it tomorrow. Capricorn, you could be reassessing your top professional goals and strategies you've been using to hit them. It might be time to revamp an aspiration that no longer serving you. Rethink how you can best form a better leadership qualities. It's all for the taking, but it's going to be slow and steady and calculated approach. So delays aren't necessarily going to disappoint you. And let's face it, Capricorns are slow and calculating. They got to have their plans. I live with one. All right, Aquarius. Aquarius, uncertainty can cause anxiety. Watch out for unnecessary overthinking about the future. Rather, focus more on reassessing your beliefs. And that was something that happened to me. I'm an Aquarius, by the way. That's something that was brought to my attention yesterday. We talked about the change of St. Petersburg and how we all have to participate and be a part of that change. And the beautiful lady that I was meeting with, that's creating, among with other people, the Florida Ions here in St. Petersburg, said to me, we're about to lose our mayor and we're going to have a new mayor that's going to help revitalize St. Pete in a positive way. And I looked at her because I don't really pay attention to politics. But you know what? I do have a responsibility to vote somebody in that's going to make positive changes and build that tower up brick by brick, in a loving sense. So, I always use the excuse that I don't want to be called for jury duty. And that was the the truth, you know. I don't want to be called for jury duty because that means I have to go and judge somebody for something they did, a mistake that they've done. And I don't feel qualified for me myself personally to do something like that. I don't want to judge another human being. I judge myself enough. Why would I want to go judge somebody else, right? So I've always not signed up to vote, but I am going to. You know, I was listening to a podcast the other day. It says we do have a responsibility to our city, to our township, everything. And we should go out there and help vote in the right people that are going to make the changes. It's going to take all of us to make changes to build something beautiful and everlasting and people that are going to go to build up um, the whole global system, you know, that make sure that we have enough food for everybody, that we have enough water, that we're not cutting the resources for our great grandchildren or our grandchildren for that matter. So do your part. Don't, you know, do whatever you can to be responsible to help grow your community and do it. I used to think voting was a bad thing. It's not. It helps bring changes and stuff like that. Be open to listening to everybody. Do your research. Find out who's sponsoring them. Don't take it for their word. You know, research, take notes, witness, watch it all. Pisces, if you happen to get in touch with people from your past with a friendly gesture, then it's okay. But the old urge of getting emotional support from someone you love that's in the past may give you a nice lesson. Watch out for emotional needs. Self-control and self-nurturing are very important in this phase. If you repeat any mistake from your past, thinking that things might have changed or improved, then you'll regret it by the end of the transit. Be mindful and meditate daily. Well, that's a great reminder right there. Be mindful and meditate every day. I'm going to check this studio now and see if I have any questions or comments, which I don't. Um, so if you guys do, if anyone gets my attention, all you have to do is post a comment in here. Also, if you're listening after the fact, you can always get in touch with us on Facebook, Raising Vibration Radio page, or in the YouTube comment section. I'd like to know what you guys would like too, as well, what we could focus on in the future, what your interests are, where we can go with this. We love having guests on here, but we also love talking to you too as well. You know, we want to get to know you and be there for you and hopefully help any one person, just one person that we can help. That's our goal here, is to help out. It's kind of funny. I go to family therapy with my son, who's recently come back into my life since Cecil passed away. And my son loves me with all his heart and soul. He is an amazing child. I'm so blessed to have him in my life. And he has very much concern for me and my well-being. And so I don't know if I've ever mentioned this in the past to you guys, or you've maybe caught glimpses from other shows, that I myself am a codependent. And I don't like to label myself like that. I'm very sensitive. Um, but I also have codependency tendencies that I've been working on for a really long time. It was so hard for the longest time for me not to just want to reach out and help everybody, whether they ask for it or not. That is like a big old codependency trait. And another one is never saying no. And learning to say no to people has been very, very difficult for me. And then the guilt that you get for being raised the way that being codependent, you have a lot of guilt. And so I've learned to have to forgive myself, and the guilt, let it go. And just a reminder, one of the best ways to do that is Ho'oponopono. I believe Carol Louie, our guest that was on the last show, she mentioned that, she said to release guilt, you should do the Ho'oponopono, to forgive yourself. It's not really about forgiving the other human being at all. It's really about forgiving yourself for even having those thoughts that they needed to be forgiven. Nobody needs to be forgiven because that brings me back to a great conversation, a great thing. When I was driving up to Alabama this past weekend, going to pick up my friend, I got to listen to the conversation of God with Neil Donald Walsh again. And it's been a while since I have picked up that book or listened to it on audio tape. And one of the things God says in there in the book is that no one needs to be forgiven for anything because it is what it is. If we were all just perfect and living in the light all the time and being perfect human beings, there's no sense of being here whatsoever and having any kind of experience, right? Because if we were all doing good, how would we know we're doing good? And that was one of the amazing things that was brought to my attention on the road that day, because again, we don't know why we're called to do something. And maybe I just needed to hear that message again, that nobody needs to be forgiven for anything because it's all part of your experience. It's all part of your life. It's all part of your vibration and what you're going to do with it. You don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, I was going back into, just talking about going to therapy today and stuff like that. And one of the conversations that I was having with the therapist and my son, we're talking about codependency and not being able to say no, is that the person that I drove down here from Alabama is keep calling me, asking me to help them. And I don't mind helping anybody that needs my help. But apparently you can provide too much help. And I didn't recognize that. And my kid brought it to my attention that, this person is starting to ask for too much help. I didn't know there was such a thing. I think whenever anybody asks us for help that we should do it. But apparently, according, especially if you have codependency tendencies, you can't overdo it. And we're very extreme. It's one extreme or the other. So I don't know about that. I'm still going to keep helping people. They said something about a Jesus complex or something. I really don't agree with that, but we can all agree to disagree on certain things like that. It is what it is, and I'm going to keep going out there and helping people in any way I can, because I'm coming out of love. I'm not doing it because of I want you to like me or do something for me. I'm doing it because I want you to. I want you to be there. I want to help you. Just like if I ask for help from somebody and they do it because they want to do it, not because they feel sorry for me or anything like that. That's not what we're trying to build up here. Um, I mentioned earlier I'm part of the St. Pete Time Bank, and one of the great things about being a part of that group is that we're a community within a community that helps each other just for time. And we have an alternative economy where we pay each other in time. And I love that concept. And if you don't know anything about time banking, you should research it and see if there's one in your area and join it because it's such a beautiful thing to help other people and get to know your community. And again, we're talking about that tower, building it back brick by brick of unconditional love. So I just wanted to, put a shout out for people to remember that. One of the other things that I had pulled up to talk about this evening is what exactly what exactly is Mercury in retrograde? Okay. So, Time Magazine has written an article on it actually a few days ago or for this month, and it talks about when the planet Mercury enters into apparent retrograde motion that marks the beginning of a span of misfortune down on the earth. At least that is according to the proponents of astrology, who have made the phrase Mercury in retrograde, or the most grammatically correct Mercury retrograde, an increasingly buzzy one over the past few years. So let me tell you, the magazines are starting to create these articles about Mercury in retrograde, and I love it. So, retrograde motion is when a planet appears when observed from Earth to reverse direction. This happens due to an optical illusion caused by differences in orbit. In the realm of astrology, retrograde motion has a negative connotation. I don't think so. I don't see it that way. It means slow down, stop, take a breath, and witness, which I was talking about earlier that we need to be doing. You know, look and see what the changes are in your neighborhood. See where the changes are going. Do you guys sit down and reflect? I think that's what retrogrades are for, is reflection. So I don't consider it a negative connotation, but we'll go on with this. Because Mercury is a planet said to rule communications, those who are astrologically inclined aspect frequent misunderstandings, scheduling problems, and disagreement with friends during this period. Well, those do happen. I can attest to those. Scheduling issues, disagreements with friends, or misunderstanding of words during this period, they do happen. Since Mercury is the fastest planet in our solar system, it enters apparent retrograde motion between 3 and 4 times a year. And for about 3 weeks at a time, the frequency makes it an ideal scapegoat for any sort of misfortune. So much that there's a whole website devoted to the question of whether today is one of those days, aptly known is Mercury in retrograde.com. See, I didn't know that. So I'm going to have to visit that website. That then you can visit to seek validation on a particular bad day. Retrograde motion is not only new is not new to astrology or astronomy. In fact, it was one of the earliest mysteries that confounded ancient stargazers. Yet, public interest in the subject is experiencing a relatively new boom, and evidence by Google queries for the question, is Mercury in retrograde, has been a considerable viral growth since 2009. So, what exactly is the reason for this newfound popularity? Astrology is quite popular among young Americans. Well, I have to disagree. I think it's popular for a lot of us. And I'm not 18 to 24 years old. So, but it says with more than half of the 18 to 24-year-olds believing that it's a science, according to the National Science Foundation poll conducted in 2014. But while some significant studies may appear to be linked to astrology, for example, a recent study showed that demonstrated effects of birth season or on personality. There is no scientific study showing that who a person is has anything to do with their natal chart, yet evidence by plethora of memes, apps, or horoscopes found across the web. Astrology is a cultural mainstay for the internet age, regardless of whether it's real or not. So let's break this little paragraph down here, right here. The study showing that a person has anything to do with a natal chart, your personality. I don't know how many of you had your natal chart done, but I had mine done by Patrick Arundel, and man, has he got me down on Pat. And I, I do believe in the science of astrology. Now, I do believe in the science of numerology, and why we're here. And this is all takes part. Did you know that every company, every big corporation in America hires a psychic to work for them? You know why? Because all of this plays a part in hiring who's going to work best for a certain situation, who's going to do the job correctly, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. Can we depend on this person? Are they going to freak out? What's their psyche like? So, again, I think this is kind of cute that we're, that they're even talking about that there's no scientific study. Well, maybe we should take this time to do a scientific study on all of this. Maybe any of you out there listening that is into science, take the time and let's start up. Let's, this is the time why we got that tower broken down and we're going to be rebuilding it up. Let's take the time to do these scientific studies to prove that astrology or numerology do have something to do with your personality or whether you can do something. Or the Michael chart. Remember, we had Tom Coates on the show not too long ago, and we talked about the Michael chart for about 4 shows. So uh yes, let's do that. Let's dive into it, investigate all of this. Let's dive into different things to see how it affects people in certain ways. We should dive into, do a some kind of research on how this sign affects this sign, or how this retrograde affects that retrograde. Not only is there Mercury retrograde, all the planets go into some type of retrograde. So all you scientists out there, all of you people that are, not sure about this, let's do something. Let's study it. Let's see if we can prove them right or wrong. Let's do this. All right. So, but while many have jumped to label the astrology boom as another millennial trend, that may not actually be the case. According to Nicholas Campion, a historian of cultural astrology at the University of Wales, who spoke with Time, it is a difficult time. It's difficult to say whether fascination with the star sign is any more prevalent than it has been in the past, since studies on the popularity of astrology weren't conducted until recent years. While those numbers will never be known, looking at the history of popular astrology, changes in technology have a significant influence on how long people will engage with astrological insight. So, although humans have been attempting to divine meaning from planetary movement since ancient time, sun sign astrology, the type of astrology most people in the West are familiar with today, got its start in the 1930s. The earliest horoscopes that offered insight based on a reader's birthday was published in the British newspaper, the Sunday Express, in 1930 by the astrologer R.H. Naylor. However, it was a magazine called American Astrology that published the first 12-paragraph horoscope, explicitly tying birthday to signs in the zodiac. Before then, almanacs were the chosen way for people to get preliminary knowledge, but not the same degree of personalization. According to Campion, the language that identifies us as a particular sign really began in the 1930s. The appeal of the personalized fortune telling that was readily available to the public became a continual phenomenon throughout the rest of the century, encouraged by their ability to drive sales. And more publications started running horoscopes, including the Boston Globe, Los Angeles Times, and numerous tabloid publications. In the 1960s, the interest of astrology was again heightened by the release of Linda Goodman's Sun Sign. Oh, I love that book. Do you guys love that book? I loved it. And she did one, sun signs and the relationships, and who, according to your sun sign, who you should get involved with their sun sign. So I really like her book. So a best-selling expanded the notion of identifying with a particular sign. The book contained long passages describing romantic compatibility, how each figure in the zodiac handles money, and how to interact with employers based on the signs. Horoscope experiences another resurgence in the 80s when newspapers created call lines that allowed people to phone in and receive personalized horoscopes. That's when Whitney Houston's aunt was doing the psychic line. Her name eludes me right now, but it'll come to me. But yeah, Dionne Warwick doing the psychic line. I remember doing that. Or and then we got Cleo from the late 1990s, early 2000. I remember those times. And those are the days when they were first starting out too. Yes, there was real psychics on the phones, but the majority of them, it was just companies like call centers that were hiring people, and they gave them a book, and when somebody called in, you had to look up to see their birthday and say this or that according to their birthday. It was really, that's why you had all this skepticism going on back then, because you didn't know if you were talking to a real psychic then, or if you were just talking to, somebody that was just reading something out of a book. So it kind of shook us up. And one of the things with psychics or astrologists or whomever that you like to participate, healers or whatever, when you're questioning or talking to someone, their authenticity. If you're coming from a truthful place in your heart will fill out their heart, and you'll know that you're dealing with the right person that you're supposed to be talking to. We have guests on our show that can do readings or help you to decide your future, or that can help you resolve from the other side, talk to somebody from the other side that you didn't really get to say goodbye to or anything like that. And each and every one of those guests have been spectacular. I'm so blessed to have them on there. I love each and every one of our guests. They're so amazing. I learn a lot from each and every one of them. And they're so beautiful. And they share their insights. And you guys, some of them have written books, and we tell you about where to go buy their books and stuff like that. But you have to go with that person that you really, really, truly resonate with. That you feel so connected with them. And there's no accident that you feel that way. You are meant to talk to that person. There's no accidents at all. We had Sandy Ward on here a couple of shows back, and she had training by James Von Prague. Well, I didn't get to tell her this, but I got to meet him back in the early 2000s, just after Jim had passed away. I was working for a magazine called One Heart Magazine. And I got to interview, clean up the interviews that Daniel, the owner of the magazine, was having, and get to write up these things. But I had to call and correct some things and get to talk to him. And what a mind-blowing experience to have. James Von Prague was just a beautiful, he's just a beautiful soul. But to have somebody years later, several years later, 20 years later, on our show that actually trained under him, I mean, wow, mind-blowing, because I love him. And here's another mind-blowing experience I got to have this year. When you're coming from a good place and you're open to all these great things coming into your life, and you're feeling the flow and stuff like that, and you open yourself up to meeting those people that are like yourself. I got to meet Dr. Raymond Moody this year. I mean, how freaking amazing is that? To meet a man that teaches you how to communicate to the dead on your own, right? By getting, created this room, and he's been on many documentaries. He's just a fascinating man, very intelligent. And in fact, all the people, I feel so dumb sometimes around some of these people. Here I go judging myself, and I shouldn't be doing that. Just like the young lady that I had tea with yesterday, and got to meet her and talk to her and get to know her and stuff like that. But highly intelligent, and and they use words that I don't use. I have a very simple vocabulary. My son just runs rings around me with his vocabulary. I had a hearing problem as a child. I couldn't hear things being pronounced, so my vocabulary is extensive as my child's is, and sometimes I have a hard time pronouncing words. But incredible though, even when people talk to me, I get them and I can feel their energy. I can understand where they're coming from, and I get the vibe of the whole conversation and can communicate that with them, even though our level of words, because words are amazing, are totally different, but yet the same. And I love it. And I'm just so thankful because when we're in alignment and we put it out there to the universe that we want to attract a certain type of people into our lives, boy, does it just keep flooding in, and you're learning things. I'm getting to learn things left and right. I know that's what's keeping me young and keeping me going right now, because of the opportunities that I get to learn something new every day and to experience. Uh, and share. I'm going to share everything that I possibly can. If somebody wants to know it, I'm going to share it with them, because there's so many interesting things out there. I'm going off on a tangent because of the of what they were talking about, the phone psychics and stuff like that. But I wanted to let you know that when you resonate with somebody, you should totally get a reading with them. Any of our guests that we've had on this show, if you resonated with them, you owe it to yourself to get a reading from them, or buy their book, or follow them out, or do whatever it is that you want to do with your life. Okay, because it's going to be a beautiful experience for yourself. And if you haven't met that person yet, don't worry, it'll come. Or when you're ready to do it, just do it. All right, so back to get off my little soapbox here. The inauspicious connotations of Mercury and retrograde are actually quite old. Evidence in an ancient branch of astrology known as Horay astrology, that's Horay astrology, a person would pose a question and an astrologer would determine an answer by consulting an astrological chart for the moment the question was asked. If Mercury was in retrograde, it would be elicit a negative response. A typical phrase that was used in relationship to Harari questioning during Mercury retrograde was nothing will come of it, meaning that nothing will come of that question. Um, Campion says. So in 1980s, Campion noticed a trend and revive and adapt to older forms of astrology, and thought that one specific meaning of Mercury retrograde became more broad. People started to apply it to everything, he adds. Now, decades later, just as newspapers and call lines previously changed how people interact with popular astrology, the internet has made it possible for people to readily access more complex astronomical data that's out there. In the past, the average person would have to be diligent and almost an amateur astronomer in order to observe the retrograde motion. Now, all it requires is a quick web search. This is how, and also why people are more familiar with the rising suns, which are based on the time of their birth and the geographical location. What is used to require a consultation with an astrologer can now be easily found by an online calculator. And it's likely no coincidence that the increased awareness of astrology starting around 2009 corresponds to the social media boom that year, as Facebook in 2009 is 11 vibration, people. As Facebook and Twitter became key resources of news, it was only a matter of time until the article about Mercury retrograde would begin to circulate. And the internet's favorite excuse for when things go wrong was was born. As history has shown, when journalism changed, astrology does too. So there you go. But we all know here that Mercury retrograde was long before 2009, and we know that we've always had to slow down and pay attention to what's going on there. So here's another interesting article that I found. Everything you need to keep calm during Mercury and retrograde, and this is on CNN underscored. So again, the mainstream media is really getting in touch with astrology and retrogrades and what's going on here. So let's what it says right here. On September 27th, Mercury will go retrograde for the third and final time. Thank you. In 2021. During this period, Mercury retrograde, which ends on October 18, which is Monday. But remember, we got that, we got to slowly go back into our normal pace there. So you'll have a couple of days of what I call hangover. You'll probably hear a number of people carrying on about how everything is going wrong and it's all because of Mercury retrograde. But what exactly is Mercury retrograde and why are people so afraid of it? And is there anything that we can do to avoid its wrath? So Jaya Saxena, the author of Crystal Clear Reflections of an Extraordinary Talisman for Everyday Life, says from a astronomical perspective, Mercury retrograde is an optical illusion. Mercury's orbit around the sun is shorter than the Earth's, which means that when Earth passes Mercury in orbit, there's a moment when it appears to move backwards. But when it comes to the astrological significance of Mercury retrograde, Saxena explains it's a different story according to a modern Western astrological traditions. Mercury is a planet that represents communication of all kinds, and when it goes into retrograde, the theory is that our communications get thrown out of whack. So, effects of Mercury retrograde. You probably heard warnings not to buy a new computer during Mercury retrograde or horror stories about dropping a phone in the toilet. Electronics gone haywire are typical associated with Mercury retrograde because they're items that you use to facilitate communication, but it's not just the electronics themselves to look out for. She says, you might find yourself replying to an email or meant to forward something or text messages that don't go through. But it's not just electronic communications that are impacted by Mercury retrograde. All forms of communication can go sideways during this time. Perhaps you worded something sloppily and now your friend is mad at you, or you forgot to make a point in meeting you wish you had, or you just generally flustered and misunderstood. So she also warns that Mercury retrograde can influence the way we communicate with ourselves. So you may have a harder time being in touch with your own feelings and motivations. That is so true. I'm here to tell you that because I had a breakdown a couple of weeks back, and I was just not communicating with myself at all, and I wasn't honoring myself. So those are really, really things to look at. And two, I'm an air sign. All these retrogrades this year have been in air signs. Whatever sign you are, if you're an earth sign and you have a retrograde in it, it goes a little bit more, it affects you harder than it does the other signs. Just like water signs, when they have a retrograde in their sign, it affects them much harder than it does the other signs. I feel this way. That's just my witnessing over through the years of which signs, and I mean earth, air, water, or fire. And you guys know what those are, right? Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra are all air signs. Your earth signs are Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Your water signs, the emotional signs, are Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. And then you got your fire signs. You got your Aries, and you have your, I'm missing one here, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So, depending on where that retrograde is taking place too, and how it might affect you. You got to pay attention to those things too. So many things that we should be paying attention to right now, and also participating in. Like I said earlier, we need to start participating, being a part of things, joining in, helping each other out in any way that we can, and doing it from love. We want to build that tower back up, brick by brick, coming from love. Don't forget that. Please, if you get anything from this show tonight, you're listening to it, whatever, just come from love, building brick by brick. Let's build our tower back up with love instead of hate and confusion and loneliness and fear. Let's come from love, okay? Let's do that for each other. Let's remind each other that we're here for each other no matter what. That you always are loved and supported, that you always are never alone, that you have someone to support you and uplift you and be a part of your life. Remember that. Be part of the change. Get involved, help out in your community, join organizations that think like you to help in a positive way. And women need to build each other up. We need to build our women up and get them on the same level as men. And everybody is all the same, no matter what's your background, where you came from. Know that we're all the same. We all bleed red blood. So remember that when you're talking to another human being. Remember that other human being is a part of you. We're all part of the whole. What you say to another human being, you're ultimately saying to yourself. So remember that. I think there was a story, the story about Buddha. It goes around asking, are you the Buddha? Are you the Buddha? Everybody's the Buddha. Remember that. We're all part of the same. We're all part of the whole. And there's nothing right or wrong. And that we're just having these experiences so that we can experience ourselves. We came here to have these experiences. And here's our opportunity to maybe jump off of this one merry-go-round ride and get onto a more beautiful, serene, peaceful ride. This is our chance right now. So please, please, please remember that. So effects of Mercury retrograde. So you heard we're back to the, so you have a harder time being in touch with your own feelings. And I told you about that. And hold on a second here. I lost place with my computer screen. It decided to Mercury in retrograde. Just let me shut it down for just a second. So give me just a second here to get back to where I was. I know I was right here. Okay. So it sounds like Mercury retrograde can and will make everything that could possibly go wrong actually go wrong. Well, yes, basically. Saxena says anything that involves you having to communicate, which is unfortunately just about everything, can be affected. So what's to be done with a difficult time? While you may be attempting to go inside and lock the door for the duration, there's no especially realistic way to cope with the Mercury retrograde disruptions. Try these ideas instead. Although I do like the idea of locking myself up in a room and not getting involved with anybody during those times, but I could easily be a hermit during Mercury retrograde. It's kind of fun that way. But some of the ideas that she gives is like lighting a candle and making a ceremony out of it. Mess with crystals. If you find yourself being more reactive than usual in this communication, she recommends working with crystals. Have crystal like carnelia or blue this one I don't even know how to say. Chalcedony area around Chlcedony. Let me see if I can pronounce that word correctly. Again, I told you I had a hearing. I was so blessed with having scarlet fever as a child. I lost my hearing and I didn't, it's one of those things. So let's see what it says here. chalcedony. Chalcedony. So that's how you say that word, but it's a blue chalcedony around. She says, which are stones that support clarity and confidence, or a stone like amethyst, which helps balance emotions when your iPhone breaks. Oh, you hate it when you have technology break on you, or you drop your phone and crack your screen. That's not fun. Of course, it would be better if your iPhone didn't break at all. I agree. A military grade phone case would help you. How cute. Stress is another hallmark of Mercury retrograde. So take it easy. Do something for yourself. Get a massage. Do some deep breathing exercise. Read a book. Drink some tea. Do something positive for you. Okay. So remember all of that. And let's see. I found one of the articles here also. It says Mercury retrograde in June and how it can harness your effects. So I wanted to see what happened, what they talk about that happened in June for you. So they talked about falling out with friends, experiencing misunderstandings, travel logic and communications getting disrupted, emails getting lost, flights being delayed, or other misfortune. Well, I had those very same things happen this past June when Mercury was in retrograde in Gemini, and it was a close one, and there was some misunderstanding. So, uh, that was very interesting. And it kind of go back to see in these articles how, they predicted things would go with that, which brings me to my other point that I wanted to talk about tonight. Uh, when you plan things, right? I don't know about you, but some people are planners and like things plan out and want everything to go the way they plan it. Unfortunately, with all the craziness going on right now with the vibrations and the building up of the collectiveness and changing the direction, so to speak, it can be overwhelming sometimes, especially if you're a fixed sign like I am. Aquarius, we're fixed signs, and I am flexible. I've learned to do that because that's part of one of the things of a trait of a codependency is the flexibility, because you just don't know where your world is coming from when you're like that. But you have to be flexible. These are things that we're going to talk about. If you're stressed out because things aren't going as you plan, you guys take a step back, take a couple of deep breaths, and remind yourself that it's not about all this about the plans. It's about what you're experiencing and witnessing right now. That's been the hardest thing for me to learn, is what am I witnessing right now? What are you witnessing right now? Please let me know. I really want to know what you're witnessing right now. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it helping you grow as a person? Is it hindering who you are? You got to look at those things. So keep your cool. Take a moment to breathe and calm yourself. We all have experience in roadblocks in life. And when things don't go according to plan, avoid being hard on yourself or others. Getting upset will not make the situation any easier. Take a step back for the moment. Consider getting some distance from the situation for 30 minutes, an hour, a day. Get in the car, go somewhere, get a drink of water, distract yourself, be positive. Try using some self-soothing activities. I recently went to Vicki Griffin's seminar and she taught us tapping. Tapping is an amazing way to soothe yourself. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube on tapping that you can do to help self-soothe and calm you down. Come back to the situation when you're able to be patient and calm. So what they're saying is don't react because it didn't go the way you wanted it to go. And then acknowledge that you're disappointed. It's okay to be disappointed when your plans don't go the way that you think they should go. Say, I'm disappointed at this, that it didn't go my way. Acknowledge that. So once you've calmed down, you can begin to address the disappointment. The first thing you need to do is acknowledge that you're feeling disappointed. Try saying something, I'm disappointed that this didn't go my way. You can also try writing about disappointment, why it didn't go your way, what is upsetting you about it, how can you move forward from the disappointment. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, witnessing, paying attention, and not judging it and just feeling it. Acknowledging your feelings allows you to process them and move on. Avoiding suppressing your feelings might feel good in the short term, but it'll all make you feel worse later on. Ain't that the truth? If you don't grieve somebody that passes away, you kind of push it down and you worry about other people and you're not really taking care of yourself. Let me tell you what, some other situation is going to come along and make you feel it again till you acknowledge that feeling. Okay? So take the time to feel your feelings and feel them, because if you keep stuffing them down, you're just going to make yourself sick. You're going to give yourself some kind of illness. You're going to come up with something. Be honest about your feelings. You don't have to be mean about expressing your feelings. Just be honest and open and express them, acknowledge them, and allow you to process them and move on. Avoid suppressing your feelings at all times. Please do that. I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that. Number 3, assess what went wrong. Think about the situation from an objective standpoint. Avoid blaming yourself or others. Try to clearly see what happened. Your judgment may be clouded by a negative emotion or stress. Instead, listen to others that have more objective view. Take a neutral approach to it all. Your assessment should be based on the pros and cons of the situation. Evaluate both of them, the good, the bad, and consider writing them down. The pros and cons of the event. See how you can grow from this. Okay, we're going to take just a short little 30-second break while I let the dog out who's spazzing out on me, and I will be right back. I wish I had some music to play. I just learned that I could share videos, but I don't have any videos to share with you. So I will be right back in 1 second as soon as I let this little man outside, and I'll be right back. Thank you for letting me take that little pause. I guess I didn't get to him quick enough. He already had his little accident, but that's all right. He went outside anyway. 15 years old. I'm so blessed to still have him in my life. He is the last of 6 dogs that I've had over the past 20 years. And I'm just so thankful that I get to wake up to his smile and his blessing every morning. So awesome. Um, let's see here. Let me get back to where I was. Number 4, accept what you can and cannot control. Some things are simply out of control. For example, the dog urinating by the back door. There's nothing I can do about it because he had to go out. He's getting older, and I knew that. There's forces outside of yourself and influences the shapes and outcomes. Avoid dwelling on things that can't change and focus on what you can. Think about how you can be a solution to the problem. Yes, 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 yes. I usually have company here at the house that can let him out, so I know what the solution to my problem is. Bless his heart. Number 5, learn to adapt. Adaptation is the key when things go awry. It's part of our evolution as people to learn to adapt to our environments. The more flexible you are in your plans, the more likely expectations. Life's not a straight, easy path. It's filled with twists and turns. Enjoy those twists and turns. Each day is learning how to adapt in our daily lives and challenge. Imagine how you'd get to school. While there would be only one specific way, imagine there's other possible ways to get there, how to arrive there. If we didn't use our imagination or we didn't adapt to our situation, where would we be if we were rigid all the time? Number uh assessing your options. So explore your expectations. Oh my goodness, that's been always a hard one on me. I always had expectations. I always thought, well, because this was one of another hard lessons for me to learn. Because of the fact that I was always thinking that everybody, I did good and I expected that and could no, you can't expect that from anybody. You gotta, when things are frustrating, when things don't go according to plan because they don't meet your expectation, think about expectation you had for the situation. Think about your expectation. You may have been too strict or rigid on one plan or goal is not measured of your work just because that things didn't go out in the time that you wanted it to. It doesn't mean that they will never work out in the future. You and your friends wanted to go to a special restaurant. Let's take this one. You find out it's closed. You may be disappointed or upset. You know what? There might be a really good reason why that restaurant's closed and you didn't get food poisoning and you're not suffering right now. That's a good thing. I don't want that to happen for the restaurant, but I'm just telling you, there's always some reason things don't go your way or hey, you have to change or switch or do something else. You can always restate your goals and plans too. Since your original plan hasn't come through, return to your original mission or goal or for the situation. You likely had a brainstorming phase about your goals and expectation. Go back to that moment. Talk about the goals again and those involved. Consider writing down your original goal. Putting the situation in writing, particularly for bigger plans, can help to solidify and your goals to put them into motion. Use these goals as a framework to restate and reimagine your alternative plans. I always have a plan B. If your plans aren't working out the way you want them to, think about other options. Gather information before, when you're creating plans, think about it. And also witness what's going on too when things aren't going your way or working out the way you plan. We all have those situations that we have to think about. I have to take another little break to let the little man back in because he's having a fit. I will be right back. Give me one moment. Okay, I'm back. So, just to let you know, it is, we got about 10 more minutes and then this broadcast will be over. I do want to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you that listened in tonight. I'm so sorry that it didn't work as we planned. Yeah, we're talking about plans, but I am sorry. We did have a fabulous show planned out for you tonight. I really wanted to. My son brought up a good point earlier today uh, that some people want to get to know me and Tammy, and I would like to do a few shows where you really get to know me and Tammy. Tammy's a beautiful soul who does a lot for her community and gives to a lot of people. And I'm so fortunate and so blessed that she's coming in my life. I'm in fact, everybody that is in my life right now, I am so thankful. I- It's amazing what I experienced as younger in life and where I am now compared to where I was, 20, 30 years ago, and the growth that has taken place. And I just want to take a moment and honor that. And I hope that you right now take a moment to honor where your life is right now, where you are. You're alive, you're breathing. Remember to practice gratitude every day. Be thankful for your life, what you have. It's amazing that you get to wake up every day and experience something different. You don't have to relive yesterday. You can start anew. You can start having those experiences that you want to have. If you want to write a book, write a book. If you want to do a podcast, start a podcast. It doesn't matter if anybody listens or not. Who cares? Eventually, somebody's going to listen to it. Or if it's just for you to listen to later on, and don't judge it. Like for me, I don't like to write, I like to have a podcast. And so this is kind of like a video journal for me. I get an audio journal that I can go back and listen to and see where my mindset was on this day. It could be tomorrow I go back and listen to it. It could be 2 years from now, just to see where my mindset is. Are you doing something like that for yourself? Are you taking the time to say thank you every day for being alive and being here? I mean, we've gone through a really rough time this past 2 years. We've lost loved ones. I lost a life partner, Cecil. I love him, but he needed to go home. Bless his heart, he was in so much pain. But miss him. He's in my heart, though, and I do love him, and I'm so thankful for every minute I got to have with him. You know, was it perfect? No. If anybody has a perfect relationship, I want to have you on this show as my personal guest to talk about your perfect relationship. If any of you have a perfect relationship going on right now, everything is just automatically so perfect about it. It just you go to bed with smiles on your face every night, and you're so happy you can't even fall asleep. I want to have you on this show. You know why? Because it doesn't exist. We're here to have experiences, to help each other, to be the light for each other, to help each other remember why we came here, to love one another, to uplift and support and to help each other out. That's what we're here for. Those experiences. Are you having the experiences that you want? Think about it. Are you taking the time to do what you want to do in life? If you are not happy right now with where your life is, does work feel like a big commitment to you? Then you need to change what you're doing. You should be happy with your life, what you're doing. You need to find something that you really enjoy doing and go out and do it. I don't care if it's traveling or if it's cleaning bathrooms. If you enjoy cleaning bathrooms, do it. If you love traveling, do it. If you like writing books, do it. If you like creating pottery or art, do it. If you like sitting with people and helping them out, do it. There is nothing wrong with that. It's perfect. If you like to discover, do research, do it. We need lots of researchers out there. We need to have the scientific evidence out there to show that all of this stuff is working, this quantum field energy that's going on right now. Do it. You know, do what your heart makes you glow every day, and then be thankful that you can do it, that you're not stuck feeling sorry for yourself, and always, always forgive yourself. You're the most important person on this planet. You are. And everybody that is around you is a part of you, and they're important too. And how you interact with them is very important, because you're just talking to yourself in another physical body. I want you guys to be kind to each other, love each other. Remember who you are. I got that opportunity to experience that this past weekend when I had that car accident. I had to remember who I am. I had to remember that all I have to do is ask for support and love. I told you I got stuck and I needed help getting home. I reached out to a beautiful soul, my friend Kathy, who's born on the same day and year as me. God bless her. She's going through a difficult time right now, and she came and got me and my friend with the dog in her brand new car. Didn't even have 5,000 miles on it until she got up there to pick me up in Ocala. And she let us ride in her brand new car back home. And she let me borrow her car until I could get to the rental car place on Thursday. That was beautiful. And I'm so thankful, Kathy. Thank you so much for coming and rescuing me. Sometimes it's okay to be rescued. I just want to put that out there to you guys. If you need to be rescued, that's okay. Get rescued every once in a while, or rescue somebody that needs your help. It's all going to come back in the wash anyway. It's all going to be good. So with that said, I want to talk about our guests that are going to be coming on the show coming up next Saturday night. Tammy should be returning with our special guest, Albert Moore, who is an author and has his own website, and he's got a video presentation for us to watch. And then Tammy and I are going to do a fun Halloween show together for you on the 30th. It's going to be fun. We're going to be kids on that day, because we are kids. We're just here having adventures. So please join us for that show. Halloween, talking maybe some scary stories, or talking about what makes us happy at Halloween, or honoring those people that passed over. Let's do something special on Halloween together on the 30th. And then we're going to have John Ferris on our show on November 6th. And then coming after that will be Dr. Jamie McLaughlin. And then on the 20th, the young lady that was supposed to join me tonight, Isabel, will be on here. So we're looking forward to many, many more shows. I think this is show number 32 or 33. We're really it's so fun doing these things. Thank you guys for allowing us to do these and be here each and every Saturday night, and being a part of you, and letting us talk to you, and sharing the knowledge and the beauty and the love that just comes from getting to do this show. So thank you guys. I love doing it every Saturday night. It's amazing. I'm so thankful for Tammy, and I miss you tonight. I can't wait for you to come back next week. Um, Albert, we look forward to having you on the show. Isabel, I wish you could have joined me tonight, but we'll get to have you on November 20th. And I don't know what's going to happen from the 20th on. We're just putting it out to the universe. If somebody wants to be a guest on the show, they are more than welcome to reach out to me and be a guest. If not, we'll just continue talking about what's going on and uplift and support and help each other the best that we can in the very moment. I know I'm about to starting a new podcast myself for the St. Pete Time Bank, and I already have my first guest on that coming up next Friday. So I hope you guys could join us for that too as well. I want to thank all of you guys for joining in and listening tonight, and thank you for being a part of our life each and every day. You have a wonderful, blessed weekend, and we'll see you next Saturday night with Tammy and our special guest, Albert Moore. Good night, everybody.